I think the meaning of life is purpose. I think that we teach and learn, and no one on this planet is meant to be alone because we're creatures that just is not designed to be alone. So, having purpose, you know, being part of a society, you know, and having loved ones. I have to deal with the reality of it, and I find another ways of managing in my head. You know, it is a little painful that they're not all there, but they're not. They're very estranged with each other. Um, it's something I got to do myself. And with enough resources and help, I think I can do it myself. I don't need family a lot, you know, to you know, where other people think, oh, family, and it is a family thing, but I just don't have that. I don't have the luxury of that. So since I don't have the luxury of that, it's not an issue. I find other ways, like I said, to cope with it. I remember we had been drinking too. That's one thing they tell you: don't be impaired while you're engaging in sexual activity, because you lose your judgment. And I lost my judgment, and that's the only thing I'm angry at, is not having my judgment at the time, because I was so needy and so I felt alone as a caregiver. I just needed some type of connection, some type of something, and got it, but got the wrong thing. However, the other side of it is that I stopped working because my kidney had failed as a result of not knowing, and but it opened the door for other avenues of things I qualify for, so it doesn't make the road so hard. And so that's what I think has been relinquishing my anger, is if I was in a situation where I had no means and I'm trying to struggle and try to stay healthy, and I would be very angry at that. But Oregon, it seemed like it opened up the door and said, we can help you. And he took me by the hand and walked me through everything. So that keeps a lot of the anger and stuff away, because just the state really makes it available. I told the doctor that is, I said, I don't know if I can live through this. I'm probably not going to. And she says, yes, you will. She says, HIV is not a death sentence anymore. You're going to live for another 20 years, you know. So that made me think, oh, great, if that's the case. But I felt like, who would want me now? Who would want to have a relationship with me now? I was like single, like, who's going to deal with me now? They're going to not want someone with HIV. I was totally devastated that my kidney function had totally died at that time, and I was ready to go then. But after living 12 years later from that, I think I'm ready to fight. The battle. I think I've always been ready to fight. I think we want to give up too quickly, and then we realize that we have no choice to give up. And I think that's where I was. I'm not as young as I was at 47. I'm now approaching 60. I'm still young enough for some resilience, and I got to keep that energy going. Like I said, it's your attitudes, your aptitude, your altitude. I got to have a good attitude about this. It's so overwhelming. I haven't grasped it yet. It's just that let's go through the process, and then it'll really hit me when it's going to start to happen. Right now it's like, I've heard anything. I'm going to try to make it work, and if it does, great. I'm not putting too much credence on it, so I don't clobber myself. Really be serious about dealing with it. but not surfacing that emotional part until I get this done. You know, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say to her. I didn't know how to feel. You know, all I knew was that's great that she's willing to do that. Her heart is out there. I was grateful in many ways, and everyone's saying, "Oh, how wonderful!" But somewhere that hasn't hit me yet. I am grateful. Don't get me wrong. It's just getting the other people to move. Then I can put some emotional credence into it. Then now, right now, I don't know. And so I just feel like I'm in the abyss right now until someone rattles some cages.
The best way for them to get a handle on your risks and your physical exam and everything is just go ahead and schedule you for a staged evaluation. The first portion of the evaluation, and that is on a Wednesday. It includes transplant class, transplant clinic, and just a couple of studies, a pelvic x-ray, and our standard thing that we do for everybody, the drug screen, okay?
Okay.
And then, so a little bit of lab work, a little bit of diagnostic, the pelvic study, just to look at your vessels, make sure that those are open to hook up to a transplant to, an exam with the physician, and the transplant class, okay? For the transplant class, you need to bring in your support person.
Okay.
All right? Okay.
Can you give this, Janine, she's my care provider. I do all my medications, and she does all my scheduling.
And will you explain to Janine that because she's your primary, right?
She's my caregiver, and she's
right,
and
but
she's
going to be your primary support person for after transplant.
okay.
And then you have, isn't that what you said?
Yes. I do have her and a friend Donna. Mm-hmm.
Right, and so that way they together. So Donna should be able to. You need to pick a date that Donna can come to.
Right, and she's
okay.
Yeah.
So because they're fulfilling that role together, right?
Yeah.
Because Janine only has a certain number of hours to give you per week.
You're right.
Right.
And Donna.
So Donna is going to. So is Donna your primary then?
Donna opens her home for me, so she's got a room set up waiting for me even to this day.
Okay.
That we speak. So Janine would come over and help with my needs there.
Right.
And then
But Donna will be actually your primary then, right?
Okay, then I guess that's how that would work. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm trying to identify is the person that's going to bring you to all of.
Well, that would be Janine.
Let's re-review. Let's re-review the role so that I make sure that I'm clear on this. Okay.
Hey, let me bring Janine in too as well in terms of what we're.
Okay.
All right. So Janine is here.
Oh, hi, Janine.
Hello.
While we don't want two people, typically we don't want two people managing a patient at once, that it is feasible that if Donna is involved essentially as the primary support person, in other words, she can come to the visits and get instruction and take phone calls for changes, and then you're listed as a backup, but your list is a backup essentially because you only have a set number of hours that you're allowed to work for Dawn, right?
Correct.
And so technically Donna needs to be the primary support person, and the primary support person's role is they need to be at all the appointments for education and everything like that. But that being said, after those first 4 weeks, certainly the intensive needs are gonna, it's not saying that you can't be at those visits is my point. You can be, certainly, and especially if you guys are fulfilling that role together, okay?
Yes.
Essentially, the support person has to come to the evaluation, okay? Sit through class, meet with a social worker at a minimum for the evaluation appointments, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When they get called in for transplant, that person has to be able to drop what they're doing So you have other patients too, but that person has to be able to drop what they're doing and get to the hospital within 24 hours and have a daily teaching session with the nurse, every day that the person's in the hospital for about 4 days. Okay?
Okay.
And then on top of that, they need to be able to come to all of the outpatient appointments, which again are pre-scheduled. I imagine you guys could work around that. But after transplant, somebody needs to be available and essentially with them 24 hours a day for 4 weeks.
Right.
Doing the heavy lifting, doing, the medication changes along with you, Don. I mean, we're not giving all of your care to somebody else. We expect you certainly to be involved.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No, we're not taking it away from you. But the fact of the matter is that we cannot predict the condition you're going to be in after a transplant. Sometimes people these medications can cause some pretty significant side effects, and you could be feeling really poorly and unable to do some of this on your own, or unable to really track all these things on your own. So that person, what we're basically asking is you need to have one person who can basically be your care provider should you need it. You could be the most independent, perfectly functioning individual before transplant who can take all their own meds and keep all their appointments straight and drive themselves to the appointments. After transplant, we really don't know what's going to happen to you. I haven't ever had a paid care provider be able to fulfill that role entirely because they have other patients they're taking care of. The one thing I wasn't entirely sure was when we had talked about Donna and having Donna be primary, it sounded like she was going to be able to come to all of the appointments if needed and everything like that, would be able to come to the hospital to do teaching. So my point is that as long as Donna is able to do that, it's not that Janine, you're not allowed to do that or participate in that, okay? It's just that we need one person that's going to be able to do that, okay?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think for the first 2 weeks, you've got to count on Donna being that involved until you guys see what the commitment is and your ability to work your schedule around the remaining 2 weeks. Do you see what I'm saying with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever Wednesday it is, it's going to be the whole full day from morning to, late afternoon. Okay.
We've been in OHSU ER for those types of situations, so I'm more than familiar with that scenario.
Okay, perfect. And then it should be a day that Donna can come with you guys.
Okay.
Okay. So you might want to call Donna while you're waiting for a scheduler to call. Call Donna and get her availability.
They called me and she brought up the support person. And that you and Janine would be in full involvement with this training that's going to be happening. I know that it's a kind of a, when I get my transplant, if and when, I'll just say if and when, then it's like someone's got to be around me 24 hours, and that will be between you and Janine, yeah. And I guess I can give Janine your number, and she can call and let you know when they are, and then we can just come and get you, and we go to all together go as a team. I know.
Okay, and I'm not a morning person, but I can't sacrifice my mornings.
Just for a little bit, and then that way, and then the transplant may you're not coming another 4 years or 3 years, so it's just being privy and ready.
Yeah.
So
I just hope it's not like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh God, I hope not either. But in any case, so you're on board. I just want to call and make sure you're on board with this, and they're going to tell you a little bit what's entailed.
I am 150%. I've been behind this.
For 11 years.
I've been behind this the whole time.
11 years. I know. I love you. Having her with me, clear to see that we have some kind of a bond there. One thing about Donna, she shoots from the hip. She tells it like it is. and she likes to mother you for some reason. She just like, this is what you do. You do this. She was the one who actually told me to get to the hospital because she's watching me emaciate to nothing, and I was working and I didn't know what was wrong, and she had a prior boyfriend that left her and came back with HIV, or full blown actually, and she took care of him till the day, till his last breath. So she felt like she could be this advocate, and she really puts in the role too. So, like, get your ass down to the hospital. And I go, all right, I will. Well, you're losing weight. There's something wrong. Go. You might have the virus. Go to the hospital. I said, all right. And then I went back to sleep because I had 2 days off. I was so tired. And I went back to sleep. And next day, she wanted to know what my outcome was. And she was not going to let up. And I told her I didn't go. And then this Ursula thing came out. And she get your ass down there. I'm not going to tell you again because it saved your life. And okay, and I go, okay, I'll go. And sure enough, I went, but she said, I've been with you from the beginning of this. And then we had just been like this for years. This time's where I said to him, I said, I'm not going to do this no more. I ain't doing this. And then you get, like the day in dialysis, it was snowing, my first day in dialysis, it was snowing here, like end of February, last thing in AAA. And Janine couldn't show up because she comes from Milwaukee and she was on there. So she's there going, okay, so how do I go to that? I need someone to go with me, And this thing I told you, oh man, it's snowing and Janine's not going to come here. And the first thing you thought was, she's not going to go. You better go. See, there you go. You're going to put it off again. And I says, no, I'm going to go, but I'm going to get someone to go with me. Jeez.
He was debating it. He did it.
I was not debating it.
He did it the week before then. It was a couple weeks before then. He said, I don't want to go in there. And I said, why are you not doing it?
Because I started to feel a little better.
So? What'd I tell you?
See, the better I thought I felt wasn't the better I feel now. So you were right, however, bitch. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you've been better since that.
No. I don't know.
He been 100% better since.
Except now on the prednisone, that's what had me all wired in my foot. So that's what had me
Since you've been on dialysis, your legs ain't been swollen.
Nope.
You can get up and move the way around. He wasn't doing none of that. He come in his apartment, close the door, and this way sit. Half the time he wouldn't eat. He'd lay up in here and fall asleep in that chair all night. Sometimes forget his medication. He wasn't doing right. It didn't come back. Things didn't get better until you started going to dialysis. And you can say whatever you want to say. It's true. I might talk about it, but I'm going to tell you the truth.
That's one thing.
Yes.
We tell each other the truth. We do.
Even though you tell me too.
We do.
Me out when I don't talk to you for a month. Yeah.
I woke up at, my alarm rang at 3:30, but Janine called me at 4 before she heads out and make sure I'm awake. And then I get up. I turn the light on because that's going to get me awake. But I don't want to, but I do. Then after that, I sit up side of the bed, think a little bit. And it was hard to get out of bed. I remember calling Janine. I was wrestling with this comforter, and it won. And I said, Janine, I'm all twisted up. Grab me, and I was using a cane. I said, grab my cane and point the hand on my direction and pull. And that's how she got me out of bed. And then it took me a minute to stand, and then it seemed like I was 1 year old trying to walk again. It was pretty bad. And even to hold on to something, my shoulders wouldn't let me, my joints wouldn't let me, and so I could just fall over. I was battling depression like nobody's business. Janine and I would be coming back from, a trip, and they had this display, a moniker that says guns, and And I said, oh, let me just stop by and take a look and just see what they have. It's something cute, right? Wrong. Janine goes, no. Of course, she was smart enough to know job security. So, and I wasn't serious, but I played on it. Like, I can't live like this. Janine works for her son, okay? And then for me and George, the state came and said, you're working too many hours. You can't do all those hours because our union won't allow it. So Janine, I may have to find another Janine because Janine said, well, I can do these hours and then, up to the max that I'm able to, and then you can have someone fill in for the other hours. That's like too much in the soup. It's like some other new person, that's going to want 28 hours versus your whole 77 hours. I need to get someone 77 completely than just someone switching off and confusion, and I'm not ready for that. So now that just ruins my dynamic. Someone going to class with me, because Donna and her was going to go to class and be my support team. That pulls it right off from under me now. They told me and warned me about caregiving people tend to come and go. We can't rely on that totally. She was a second set of ears. She was someone that was great to take notes. She was great at asking questions that I didn't ask, that I would have probably wondered, I should have asked them, but she was already ahead of me. So she was very good at that. She spoiled the heck out of me. I'm not gonna lie, she spoiled me. I went to Sacramento to try out being on dialysis for the first time. I went to visit a friend. But what Janine did was I left my CPAP, and she bagged up my CPAP, and she was going to Disney. She's from LA. I was in Sacramento, so on her way through LA, she stopped at at this one lady's house. Then she went on to LA, to Disneyland and so forth. And I thought, wow, she just did that for me. And here I am excited to get to Sacramento. And I get there and I can't sleep very well because I'm gasping for air. And she was like the knight in shining armor on a white horse. I'm not getting what I got with the other caregiver. I would, we would meet our things, but now that she's gone and trying to take care of her hip, then it's like I'll never, I don't know, she was almost like a wife because she knew everything and she took care of everything. Sometimes I didn't have to talk to the pharmacy. She would get all my meds and she, So so there's a lot of changes I'm having to make, and there's some things I have to take responsibility for that I didn't have to before. I just let it go and I can just coast. Now I can't coast. I've got to be on top of everything. It gets overwhelming. And usually that's why when I had Janine, my other caregiver, she would sit in with them and she would make sure if she saw me eat something, she'd say, you need to take your binders, or you need this. And didn't he say this and that? I go, oh yeah, because so she would be in me, we would be like a team. And then there's something she'd forget and I'd say yes, and he also said this, and this, or she also says it. So it worked out. I kept everything online, but now that she's no longer with me, it's kind of hard to get the caregiver who speaks a whole mindset, somewhere else. Just the load of appointments, if you could just do that. So I wake up and you say, hey, we got an appointment this time, make sure you're ready. Okay, and then I go and I remember what it is when I'm coming to. I don't have that. I got to come to and remember I got this and I got to do that, and and take all these meds, and it's kind of it's encompassing too much for me to be dealing with everything, But I have to now. I have to, Now that I don't have a certain caregiver that used to be like a wife, I don't have that anymore, and I don't have anyone interested in taking part in my medical anymore. Just don't want to be bothered. But do everything great physically. So that's basically all I need. When I noticed that when the doctor was trying to talk to my new caregiver and stuff, and she was just kind of, so she had to look at me, only talk to me, and she just zoned her out. So I said, next time, why don't you just sit in the lobby? You know, I'm not going to put too much on you. Just go ahead, sit in the lobby. And I told her that, I was saddened by the fact that she doesn't have those skills. I was just kind of saddened. Well, that one you pick up the pieces for. Just do that and be responsible for everything that she said. I don't like the fact that I have to rely on the caregivers. I don't like the fact that I have to hope while I'm going into surgery who's going to, you know, like in surgery, I need to blink out and recover and then next day come back sharp. I need someone to be there to remind me what was said, because I'm hopped up on this medicine that I can't remember one thing or another. They knew I had to be at surgery at 7:45. They didn't even show. And so at 7:30, I had to call a Lyft to come and pick me up. They're 3 minutes away, and I managed to get there 5 minutes late. I was just eked in. Then to find out there's no caregiver that day, and I contact him, and now he's going to call in because he was waking or something because he was partying too much. I didn't see any seriousness in that. He played serious and everything, but he called, you know, for me to look for him when I'm being carted off to surgery did not make me go under very well, because now I have to worry about who's coming, what's going on, is there someone that's going to look out for me? Am I, you know, blink. And then I had to wake up wondering, well, okay, what's going on? You know, is there someone here? And then I find out Janine's been out there waiting, you know, that I'm a single man struggling to advocate for myself. So that makes me a mean person now. You know, I'm the nicest guy, and I like to laugh. But when odds are against me and I have to come out fighting, I take no prisoners. I kind of like, I want it now. I'm on guard of being heard and listened to get through this. You know, the impact that I get from caregivers over my overall with my health is that, you know, when I come in from caregiving, it's nice to see the place all cleaned up. I don't have to worry about anything. I can take something I pre-made and heat it up, eat it, and then sit in this chair and watch TV and then pass out. Because I get weakness a lot with dialysis, that's a great overhaul. I don't have to worry about anything that's coming to a messy house or a messy bedroom or whatever. It's all taken care of for me, so I can convalesce much easier. So not everyone can do caregiving or really want to in that case while watching her, and they have trouble trying to replace people a lot because they get, you know, especially after COVID, you know, no one really wants to come in someone's house, and no one really wants to do the various things that a caregiver would normally do. But individual caregivers are the best, I think, because then you know what you're getting. You know, after a while, you develop a good relationship and so forth. But yeah, an agency caregiver could be there for years or move on. You know, I would say I had to think about, there was one agency, I went through 7 of those. The other agency I have now, I went through about 6 of those, of different people, yeah. They're on it. They are vacuuming, dusting, cleaning, and doing all those things. So I'm very dependent on having assistance. I don't think this company even wants her to pick up medication. One told me if it's like my Xanax, for example, she can't touch it. But if it's other high blood pressure medications, yeah, she'll pick those up. But those others, I have to figure out how to get there. You know, and I was in a long-term relationship, you know, live-in relationship. When that ended, of course, because my mother had passed away, and his mother was very sick and had surgery, and father was an alcoholic, and so he had to come home because she begged him. And you know, and I think it was good. It was close to 5 years. You know, it was approaching, and we ran we did our run. And he went through the fact that I was going through all kind of depression and so forth when Mom passed away, and when his mom had to get a bowel reconstruction, he had to go. And so it was sad, it was rough. Looking after my father, Dad was pretty selfish about. First, he was the one that had a tiz about me being, gay. At first, he was really. He wouldn't talk to me for 2 years. Mom and I would always talk, and if I called the house, he'd say, "Your mom's not here," and then pretty much he'd hang up on me. Of course, I didn't like him either. I could give two shits about him at the time, because he was always favored my older brothers, and they always made me Don can't do that, and Don doesn't want to do that. It's the direction I took in life. I could have stayed maybe in California, and I could have found a partner there. Lord knows my doors were being knocked down all the time about that. But here, just doors stopped knocking, And I just started dealing with my dad coming up here ill, and then I get ill, and then he goes back and dies, and then I'm still here, trying to take care of everything on my own, When he moved up, he stayed with me in my 2-bedroom apartment. I kept wondering, why did I let him come up here? Why did I had regrets, like my life is now getting, he's closing my door for my, my availability to date and stuff. Oh yeah, I do. I know how to pull myself out of that. I call a friend, watch a comedy, yeah. And I put things in my way to not be depressed. My dating scene is I've increased on the interaction or the hunt. Yeah, look forward to. Along with this, and along with everything else I do, but that real thing that gives me a nice smile on my face and zeal is meeting people. That's exciting. And I haven't really found anyone yet and I don't want a relationship now until I get my kidney. Because I don't want to deal with me going to dialysis and my set schedule. It's convenient to have hookups, in a sense, because then it's like you see whenever you see them. There's no, where have you been? I need this, I want, us to do that. I don't want to do that until I don't need to be connected to those machines anymore. Then I can have more time for that person. Because I was denied, because they were concerned about a heart issue, when my blood pressure was dropping so low. Instead of cutting the dose, they said stop taking it. And then all of a sudden I started getting little mild chest pains. And then I called my cardiologist, and they told me, we're going to cut that dose down. And so when the kidney transplant people saw that, along with bringing my support system, which wasn't good enough because, one, she didn't drive, and her husband does, and he's at work, so if anything happened, she couldn't take me to the hospital. They don't want necessarily an ambulance. They want somebody that can drive you immediately, and that you have to live with that person. She had knee issues, so they said no, and they denied me of that factor, because one, they thought the heart issue was a concern, and not a very good caregiver, if I remember showing you the note. So that clobbered me. I was like, gosh, I did everything right to get to everything, flying colors pass, and they saw that one issue of the over-medicated blood pressure. And then they just said, no, you have a bad heart. It's just kind of been a mental roller coaster on what can I do to relinquish this horrible doubt, this give up, this, how do I fight that? Because it wants to creep in right away, and I'm not letting it. As long as I know I have other options, until my options run out, then I'm a basket case at this point. And maybe not. And maybe not a basket case. Maybe, because you don't know how you're going to feel when the next session of things happen. I think you have to have a base rule of how you're going to deal with things. And it's like I always say, your attitude's your aptitude to your altitude. And you've got to have a good attitude about everything that you approach. If it seems encompassing or it's too much for you, you've got to have a good attitude to approach it and not give up. And that's what I'm not going to do, is give up. But I felt almost devastating, because I think I had mentioned my concern would be, what if they say no? Now I know, what if they say no? They said no, so now I have another alternative. If I didn't have any alternatives, then I'd be even more of a basket case today. Because I'm grasping on every bit of hope that I can find, every bit of hope that I can muster. So.
It's kind of rough being out here without friends, and being from California, and really, I mean, people from work I've been friends with. I've met a few, but there's one I still talk to, Donna, and maybe another one, and then now there's you. So I don't really have a whole mess of friends like I did in California, because I grew up there. So you worked with them, or you lived around them. You worked with them at other jobs, and you see them out, and you get together and do things, and all that's gone.
I think life will gear you to what your purpose should be, whether you open your eyes and realize or not. It's going to push you. And I think with what I have experienced before, I didn't give a shit. I was just living and trying to make something happen haphazardly. It's why I reached you, is I felt like I needed to at least tell people about dialysis, about kidney issues. If this can help other people, if this can make them realize, hold on, someone is giving me some good information through their experience, and that I can use this to kind of avoid certain things, then great. I'm adding life, maybe. I'm changing a little bit of their course. And I think that's where I feel there's a purpose for me, to educate others about prevention, about what I go through. And hopefully it'll be a wake-up call to those who have sense. One of the things that I always say is, I never give advice, ever. I only suggest, because wise men don't need it, and fools never heed it. So, I'm just basically showing a little window of what I've gone through. And if that's going to help so many people that will heed it or will pay attention, then that's all the better. It gives me purpose. This gives me purpose to have those needles shoved in my arm and get my blood cleansed and everything, to live another day. So I had to go to this other hospital that everyone recommends. If you're denied there, you can go here. So I went there, and they read what the notes were and denied me right away. And thank goodness my cardiologist from my hospital referred me to this doctor. They said, well, you're under the same doctor or same house. I'm going to send you over there since they're going to be considering you. And as soon as I got and saw that cardiologist, he looked at my heart, and what he did is he said, wait a minute. He said, your heart is not as bad. In fact, he said, your heart's terrific. There's people who come here who are worse off than you are. Your heart's fine. So we're gonna talk to the transplant team again, and get approval there. Well, then my cardiologist stepped in and said I needed to get a new fistula and I need to have this operation done before we even consider you. So now I had it done, and now we're going to have to start on those steps. One of the things that made me worried was Candace said what was, I guess, really worried about is not taking what you have now, your energy and getting around and so forth. They don't want to take that from you by trying to get a new kidney and issues and pretty much lead you to convalescent home. So we want to make sure that we give you back what you have. That's their opinion. And I think what I don't understand is the cardiologist says, yes, I did a stress test in the heart. It was A-OK. Everything was A-OK. And then they get a letter saying no. That was like confusing. And I think a lot had to do with the social worker not liking my care person who moves around a little slow. And I think they were really concerned about that. I thought I was strong enough. But then I had the efforts. Eff it. I'll have a little stint here, and maybe a weekend with this person, and then that'll be it. And then it's just like they kept coming around, like, oh God. Then I had to tell them you can't come back again. I'm trying to quit that stuff. No longer touching and feeling and showing passion anymore. Darn it. But was it real passion or artificial passion? It was what I felt I needed to get by. Otherwise, and I'm not suicidal. Never have been. Never cut myself. I have the medical to do that for me. No, but never cut myself at all or self-harm. I remember at 15, I took a whole bunch of my asthma medicine, the whole bottle, and woke up nauseous and sick and just threw up, and I was fine. Never try that again, I think my sexuality was trying to, it was weighing too heavy. I passed the puberty stage, but this other thing that's just so not the norm is, I'm desiring it, and desiring it more to the fact that it's not the norm. I'm getting away with something bad, and I like it, But didn't have parents like that. They were like, oh, your grandfather will turn over 3 times in his grave. Well, I mentioned earlier, that, right now I'm going to dialysis 3 times a week, 4 hours a day, 12 hours actually taken away. And then the hospital appointments in between, that I wouldn't really have time for a relationship if I were to have one. It would just, I didn't really want to put anyone through all of that. And then hearing this and understanding where I'm at now, I'm thinking, you know what? I just need to find someone who understands I'm on dialysis, and that's it. That's all. That is there for me, and I'm there for them in this journey together. That hopefully there'll be a soul that will say, hey, let's be there for each other with what we have, and go from there, because life is too short right now, and I'm approaching 60, and and people ask me, you're in your 50s and you don't have a relationship? What they don't realize is I've been going through a lot of illnesses and so forth, with even getting up to dialysis, that I wouldn't have been a good person to be around because I was not feeling well. It made me think about the support person. It made me think about, if we do this again, how will I, how would I reestablish that? I have so many friends say, oh, I'll be glad to help you, but I don't want to, in a thing that's so serious, I don't want to put them in the way of that. Yeah, they're willing to and all that. was supposed to come to me for the first training, and I thought she'd be more of a support, but someone died and something happened, and and I said to myself, this is the most important thing in my life. I get in the last minute, no, I can't make it, on the same. So I don't want to put my friends through. See, I know I never try to give anyone anything that they can't handle. And so I'm always concerned about, inviting someone else into this thing that I'm going through. I had one girl told me that she'd be willing to come over and hang with me for a month until I get better. But I need reliable people, I'll just say. I need reliable people, and I'm not getting that. Which teaches me about myself, about reliability and how important that is, So I don't think I have anyone that reliable. So until I went to a rheumatologist and she put me back on prednisone, I've been doing great since. But at that time, I'd go to emergency. No one knew what it was. No one, the doctors just said, well, you're not infected with anything and everything else seems fine. We don't know what to do. And at that time, I was starting to give up. And I think the only thing that kept me going is this, actually. I'd come in, with my cane, and I couldn't hardly walk. My legs were red and inflamed, and my body had inflammation in it. And I just know my face broke out real bad. And I didn't know if I was going to make it, but I kept pushing. But I didn't know if I was going to make it. And one day I woke up and I felt so bad. I wanted to tell Janine, I'm not going into dialysis anymore. I'm so sick. Just make me comfortable. And she would give me a Glucerna before she left, and I would drink that and wouldn't eat anything else but a Glucerna. And the weekend I had a couple of Glucernas, one for Saturday, one for Sunday, and that was it. I was wasting away, and I thought, no one could find out what's going on. My rheumatology appointment's way down. I don't even know what she's going to even do. And I just said, I'm calling it quits. I think I'm going to just die. Because, like, one of the things I mentioned in this podcast that I'm doing is after, you can make a decision after your fourth stage that you want to, and it's up to you to continue on or to get into hospice. So it would be my ultimate choice, being in also the suicide state too. They'd say, okay, go ahead, it's your right here. I just give up. I mean, what good am I now? How am I going to be motivated now that I'm stuck in this place? I can't even walk out and get a burger. I mean, no, I'd be in these gowns that I wear in my clothes, and no one, and then they're locked up, and I can't go anywhere or do anything. So I'd be stuck. I'd be a ward of the state at this point. And I don't want to be owned or held down. I got to keep on moving. I got to keep on. And that's the last part of life that I have left, is keeping on and keeping on and keep moving, because it's so important to keep moving. Movement is part of the universe. If anything starts to move in the universe, it starts to change. Things make changes when it's moving. You get me locked somewhere and I'm just there, just existing, I won't last long. I'll make the decision then. If I see that life is bleak and there's nothing more than this, hospice, let's do this. Well, I got a call at 9 a.m. the day after Christmas saying that he just sent an email to them and said that he's going back to Nebraska, goodbye, basically. I felt wonderful. It was like a Christmas gift, because I tolerated a lot. Like, he broke dishes, he broke my vacuum cleaner The thing with the caregiver is, so I said, you just handle my appointments when they're coming up, when I need to be there. Well, he had put all of his appointments in the phone, and they tried to reach out to him if he could relinquish them. And he said, I don't work for you guys anymore, so why are you bothering me? I've had some women coming here, and when I was tired, they would be sleeping or having a smoke break in their car, and had to let it. So I said, don't bring this person back. They got secondhand cigarette smoke, and I can't deal with that. I'm allergic to tobacco. And then her car was like, ugh. Like you just wanted to kind of put a mask on and just don't touch anything. My phone fell on the floor, and there was mold all over the floor. And it's a new car. She would, like when I went to the MRI thing to check my parathyroid, she went to lunch. And I was done, and where are you? Oh, about 10 minutes away. I went to go to lunch. And I was like, I wanted to go to lunch after this, So I went to lunch, but it was near where she lived. And she said, I got to run. I got to go to the library, and you just sit here and eat, and then I'll leave you. And she did. And then all of a sudden I told her, I said, when I was done, I need you to come back here. Should be there in 10 minutes. I have the sciatica pain is coming back. In the chair, it hurts so bad. I called my doctor, and I'm supposed to somehow pick up some muscle relaxers. I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. I think I have a caregiver today. And oh my God, I'm going to get another caregiver company. I swear, if no one shows today, I swear to God, this time I'm going to have someone take me to the hospital and get me those muscle relaxers and then get me back home. Pain is stabbing. It stabs. It's just wrong movements. It's just really hard, and it's not going to take a week to get over. So I'm going to have to put some things on hold right now, just on hold, until this pain gets better. I'm at home though, thank God, and the drivers will help me get into the van for dialysis. I'm in bad pain. Okay. Just want to let you know. And I felt that not getting a kidney transplant kind of, at first, it just made me feel sad that, we've been trying for like nothing in a sense. But again, it's showing the efforts that I'm trying to take to get a kidney. And even if it ends where I don't, it'll probably just end with a happy ending that I've met someone, and it's, they're going to be a support with me. And we've been working on this organically for a while, that every time I'm just hoping it's a good thing, it's a great thing, and then something clobbers me in the head about, So I'm always looking for the positive, so I'm not looking at the film as being a negative. It's just educating so many people on this type of journey that they could go on. It could be a no or it could be a yes, and they would at least know going in that I knew nothing of, And someone who's just at kidney dialysis or on their way would see this film and go, oh man, there's some things I need to be doing. There's some things I need to, if I had to qualify kidneys, or the doctor said I'm going to have to be on dialysis soon, then I need to expect these kind of things going forward. So it's still educational, and that makes me feel good. It was devastating, like the first time, but not as much because I've already been through that. So now I'm going through this. And how do I learn how to roll with the punches with this? How do I learn how to cope with this? How do I learn how to, and I didn't have those questions then. Then it was like, oh, well, what the hell? Now it's like, now you threw me another brick, and I got to make another wall. I've got to figure out how to. These bricks are coming. I gotta figure out what to do with them. I gotta make sure that I'm positive about just major change, and this I would say a bit of an obstruction. But I gotta still fight. I gotta still fight, and I can do that with a smile. It's a little insane, but I have to find some coping mechanism. I have to, and I try to find humor in a lot of my coping mechanisms. Otherwise, what's the point? We have to laugh. I have to feel good about life. I have to laugh at the silliest things. So that's what keeps my drive. Yet I'm practical at the same time. It's like, well, let's look at some of the things that may happen. So, yeah. I was sitting there thinking, after I get my kidney, and this clobbered me, this notion of not being a candidate. So it's like, I'm still breathing now. So I'm worried about after I get my kidney. Just one of the things that I didn't want anyone else to deal with is me going to dialysis. Would that ruin a relationship if I were to develop one? But I think life should be seized at its moment. That I shouldn't worry about when I get my kidney. I should enjoy life with every ounce that I have now, and work it through. Just manage it, It would be easier without a kidney, but at the same time, without dialysis and having a kidney. Well, I never forget my mom. I'm driving a point with this. She passed away. She had towels with the price tags on them in a closet somewhere, and she was saving them for when certain guests will come by, and guests weren't coming by. It wasn't like it was years ago. She got much older. A lot of her friends are dismantled. We traveled. So that teaches me that I can't put it off for this. I got to do things in accordance to as I'm living. I can't. It'd be nice to put off and say, "Hey, look, I'm going to really start my life when my kidney happens." Why can't I start my life now? Why can't, with all the ups and downs, why can't I find a glimpse of excitement out of what I've got? And I think I do. I do find a lot of excitement. But another part of me is telling me, you've got a hurdle that you've gone through to get here, and you got to do another hurdle again. But don't look at the hurdles. Just look at how I feel today. And today, this moment is very important because the next moment may not be promised. So I have to realize I'm really enjoying life if I make it an exciting thing, if I make it fun, if I put things in a way that makes things exciting, then I can deal with this. I can deal with this, but still, I have to have a little hope that maybe one day I'll get a kidney in the near future. But if not, hey, let's look if it's not. If not, then I'm gonna have to put myself into something that's gonna really be spectacular. I'm going to have to do something really out of my comfort zone. If it means standing up in front of a large group of people and making them laugh, if it means writing little skits and things, if it means doing something that I don't want to say shoulda, coulda, woulda, and just do it at my age now. I think I have more balls to do it now than I did when I was younger. And I have, Lord knows, with the exception of 12 hours a week, I have nothing else but time. I'm just going to have to be bold in life, just bold. Not be afraid of things, not be afraid of people, not be afraid of any setbacks. Just roll with the punches, and that's kind of what I've got built in, really, is rolling with the punches and having a good attitude about it. That's the only thing I can think of. And I'm seeing a lot of repeats from him and his struggles as he was getting older and losing friends and hadn't hardly any friends. Didn't seem to know how to make new friends. That's no problem with me. But with him, he just didn't. So I watched him pretty much the 9 years, watching him just get off the couch, let's go downtown, Daddy, let's do, Well, he didn't walk a long distance because he sat, and that's what I'm going through, is I'm sitting and I need to do more. So I'm in battle with trying to be more social like I used to be. But I was in another state, and it was home, it was California, it was Sacramento. I just felt more confident there than I do here. But it's all relevant to where I'm at, I'm always, I throw off with a negative, and the other positive comes back in and says, no, So that's always a battle. And I have to find some kind of strength from something. And like you said, I got to be excited about things. And I love to be excited. I don't like to fake it. There's times when you've come in and you've seen me and I was really kind of like, pretty much faking it, trying to, it just doesn't work, I've got a lot going on. I need to scare me. So I need to do an open mic. I need to scare the shit out of myself and go, oh, I did it, and do it again. And I do it. I scared myself again. Do it again. But I want to do that. Just want to be silly. I want to make people laugh, And when people laugh around me, I feel good. It makes me feel really good. Like I just sapped some of their energy, And I've always been the silly one amongst the group too. I've always been the one that everyone's cracking up for. And I realized, I have something that I need to give, So I'm thinking about that. That's where I'm at. I'm thinking about getting in front of a group and make it or break it. Make it or break it. And I want to just get in there and I want to just figure out what I'm made of.
Yeah.
One thing that is easy to do is not go to dialysis when you think about these needles, these 16 gauge needles going in your arm. But one particular time I fell asleep in the living room area there, and I had to get up to take a leak, and I broke my toe on the coffee table trying to rush in the dark. From that point on, I was trying to walk on it, and then it just got worse and worse to the point where it started yelling at me. Even when I moved my foot around, it started yelling at me. So I said, I went to emergency. They looked, they saw the toe was broken. All they did was put gauze on it and told me to kind of be careful. So I said, I called dialysis, and they told me, they said, well, you need to come in. I don't care, you need to come in. And the pain was that I said, well, if you don't give crap on my foot here, I need to put it up because I can't come down the stairs and into the van. And so I just took a day off from dialysis. Next day, it still hurt. So I just took another day off, the next couple of days, and it still hurt. So I decided, I'm not going to go until this is healed. Something stupid came to my head and said, you're going to get through this. But the problem was things started accumulating, the poisons, the things that needed to be cleaned out of my system. So it just made me a little wacky where it just got easier not to go to dialysis. All those days not going, it got very critical. So what happened was I forgot my code in my phone, and I thought, well, something's wrong. The police came, knocked at the door, unlocked the door, and they didn't look behind the chair because I was kind of where we're way into the living room where they couldn't look and see that I needed medical care. I just responded, yeah, I'm fine, I'm good, yeah, I'm here, and when they left, I tried to get my phone going, and it just got really bad. I couldn't remember my passcode to get into the phone, and so I decided that I would buck up, find some kind of strength or some kind of energy to make my legs move. Stiff-legged it out to the downstairs and saw my manager come out. And I said, would you call 911? My phone doesn't seem to be working. He called 911, they rushed me in. They contacted a family member and they let them hear me try to get my code into my phone and struggling. Everyone was trying to calm me down, but they were rushing to try to figure out my code along with me, and it seemed like there was nothing they could do to help me. And they called my family and said that I could have, I think it was, could be having a stroke. And it turned out it was the electrolytes that were off. And when my electrolytes are off, then that's where I get kind of batty. Then they gave me dialysis immediately, and once they did that, and I woke up the next morning, I was like, fine, and I felt bad that I let myself go. We thought it was a stroke, but it's not a stroke. It was definitely having to do with your electrolytes and missing dialysis. Very, very important not to do. If you break your leg or break your arm or whatever, you definitely have to go to dialysis immediately. I mean, regardless, they have to give that to you. You can't miss a day, so that you can keep your sanity and your electrolytes in place. I had an issue where my gallbladder burst, and when it burst, I was in my bedroom for 4 days, laying in a pile of poop, and the caregiver happened to come in, and I was saying, I'm not going to the doctor. I'm not going to the doctor. No, I'm going to stay home and sleep, and it was like totally irrational. So, I can't count on myself when I kind of zone out like that. I cannot. And so that was one of the things that I have to be aware of is, if you break your leg, break your arm, whatever the case is, you got to go into dialysis and get that taken care of. No, I'm not going to go to a nursing facility because you just get the worst treatment. Even though you think you're sending your family to a good place and it's too much for you, but just know that you're going to have to be on top of them to make sure that they're giving your family the right care. But see, since I don't have family and I have a mouth, I would be on the phone, and I'd have friends come in, and I'd have things, I would just really be on the warpath, and I just didn't want that. I need to get better, and my idea was getting better at home. What I've seen is, one, I'd be so drugged up on medication that I'd be drooling. Then they would say I'm depressed. Then I'd be like, and then there would be no way out. You are stuck there. They're getting funding. You have to lose your place. There's so much that that could happen to you once you're placed in those things. Sometimes it's like you're in quicksand once you're there. It was a great motivation for me to say, I'm coming home. And I remember my father, when he was dying, he refused dialysis and he was getting filled with this poison. And all he would say was, I want to go home. I want to go home. And I never would understand. I said, so who's going to take care of you then? Who's going to look after you then? You don't want no one else to look after you. You want to just go home and, just die? Is that what you're saying? You're not making any sense. But I see it now as going home is going to make me get up and go to the, clean up and make me get up and do what I need to do. I get frustrated that I'm not as young as I used to be, but still, you know what? I can still do things. And I'm gonna be determined to go home and take care of me. Because when I come home, I lighten up. My attitude's better. If I look around and look at it's bad enough I go to dialysis and I see people who are like, they're either one leg or no legs or no arm and a leg, and they're sitting there and they're quiet, and then there's other people around. It's just gloom and doom, if I were to go to a care home dialysis, just write me off. That's it. I'm not doing it anymore. There's nothing that's going to motivate me. There's nothing that's going to help me motivate others. There's nothing that's going to inspire anyone else. It's just going to be inspiring the nurse person that takes care of me. And that's it. It was just stop. My cease to exist. I would really feel that because my emotions, my everything about me will just be drained into that one area, and it's enough just to get up on your own, do what you need to do, but have all those other things stacked upon you. I couldn't do it. I could not do it. I would just give up. What do? Do you engage on a relationship level, or do you just simply have the connection and then until you see him again or whatever, you don't feel worthy enough if you have an ailment? And do I want to give a young man an ailment to deal with? They want another healthy person, And should I date someone closer to my age? Maybe, but is that putting a lot on them? I think so. It's easy for me to casually meet someone, maybe have somewhat of a once in a while connection, but nothing serious, nothing hard and serious. Because again, I got to look on my medication. I got a lot of stuff going on that I really don't want to give that to anyone else. Someone argued with me and said, if they care about you, they'll take care of all of that. But I still, if it was me, I wouldn't want someone with an ailment. I would want someone who's healthy and go hiking with or go do things with than someone who's going through something. So there's some sense of the resilience that I have programmed in me that allows me to continue. And I don't know where I got that from. I don't know if that's genetic. I've seen my dad get through things, him being ill, so I kind of thought maybe I have kind of the same DNA.
Right.
And humor gets me through everything. It's just silliness. It's a mindset. When you're ill, you have to take on this mindset of, okay, what next? What next? And I'm going to get through the next one. I'm going to get to the next one. I'm going to get and it has to continue. If you give up, and there's periods where I have just given up and was, someone influenced me to go to the bad zone, where I felt like, I'm tired. I'm giving up. Especially when my friend passed away. I just thought, I can't do it either, But then when you wake up the next morning, you realize, I better do something because this false sense of thinking you're going to give up is just not happening, So I got to continue. It's just kind of an engine, and one of the engines that I think I mentioned was someone to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. Once I got that back in my thinking, that keeps me going. And as you know, I was doing my podcast, so it took me a while to get back on the horse. I wanted to just really just do it, but then my memory was off, I had trouble with word retrieval, picking up a sentence and then figuring out what the word meant or what, how to describe things was kind of rough. It gets overwhelming, but again, you have to realize, well, this is what's waking you up in the morning and keeping you going. You have to think that I have to do this. If I don't do this, then there's consequences. I find out those things later. It doesn't make me upset about, because the family I came from, but it allows me to feel that I can at least talk to someone else. Even talking to a mass crowd, I'm talking to one of you guys out there, and I feel good about that. I've put my mark on the planet, and now I can die. No, I don't mean that, but I'm just kidding. I do. I feel alone. I do. I really do. Well, there's two ways of looking at it. Some people don't want to die. Oh my God, this is immense fear. And no one wants to die. I just, like I said, roll with the punches. Let's see what next. What else can we tackle? I think the legacy of the film was talking about kidney dialysis and dealing with life along the way. And things can get in the way. Things don't always turn out the way you want them to be, but you gotta make lemons the lemonade. You have to. You have no choice. You're in this body carting around as much as you can. You have to find a sense of normalcy or a sense of nothing, hope. And nothing's going to happen, or nothing is going to happen that I can't handle. That we should be careful on how we judge others sometimes until we walk in the same shoes they are, and then you understand, not just quick judgment and write them off. They're human too. How it affects me is I have to think more of me, and I have to do other things to not think about myself, but think about others, and it's why I do my podcast, it's why I try to inform as much as I can. And as my co-host and I, we go back and forth on things. So that gives me that excitement to take the other away. But it just tells me that everybody needs the human touch, the human condition. We shouldn't be alone. We shouldn't, we should express ourselves in other ways, even in passion, which is a rounding of a good relationship. So as a result of being lonely, I may be lonely, but I'm not alone. And I had to think about that. I had to think about, I'm not alone. There are other people. I got to remember, keep telling myself that I'm not alone. There's other people in life that's more important to engage with. And that can the buildup of that will happen on a good weekend, and then it's over, and next month may happen on a good weekend. And, so I do get my passion out from the hard week that I have with the needles. And I do find someone who's looking for the same thing, but nothing more either. That can be deadly. You've got to definitely make your decisions in life on how you want to deal with a person by having a conversation and maybe engaging. And I got to remember that I don't want to be depressed when I'm dealing with that kind of thing, because someone will pull out, I'm an ex-drug user, so someone will pull out something, like a pipe, and then I'm like, at the point, now I'll tell them to get the hell out. You got to go. If that's where you're at, you got to go. You need somebody who's confident like I am and know what they want pretty much, but not to run into a hard drug situation, because as you know, and I've been stupid in the past about that, not realizing that, you can't party drugs, you can't do it. And someone's involved in that, and being a part of that, you just remember how things were lousy. So I gotta not be depressed when I'm engaging with someone. But loneliness is no joke. It can definitely make you a little desperate sometimes. Just take my mind and put it on other things. After all, I'm 63 going to 64, and if I can't deal with my sexual prowess or my desires at this age, then I'm not in my 20s anymore, and 30s. I'm in my 60s. Oh my God, I just said 60s. I'm in my 60s, and I have to be much wiser than I think I am. give myself more credit and focus on what I want and what I really don't want. That's a real hard one to, when someone takes their clothes off and then say, hey, take a hit of this. And you're going, no, put your clothes on and go. As much as you begrudgingly want to, but you do it. You do it because, your life is shit afterwards. If you come down or whatever, it's horrible. And you don't know how much more damage you've done to yourself. So, yeah, I had to be pretty distinct when it comes to that. And loneliness is a big thing. I left a large amount of people from one city to coming here. And I just don't know a lot of people here. And so it does put me in lonely positions. But meeting friends and and hang out with friends is the best thing ever. I'm not lonely. I am lonely, but I'm not alone. I try to put people in my life, so, yeah, but it gets harder when you're older and lonely, And my depression is so mild, like, wait a minute, why would I be depressed? I ward it off with blessings. Like, what have I been given? Who am I, and who do I mean to others? Or I got lighting, I got TV, I got, enough food to, I need to be more aware of my blessings than my downfalls. And I don't want to look back at, I should have done this and should have done that and could have this. I don't want to do that. And that's what sometimes creeps up on you. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Because I don't see the outside of me. I see, the inside still thinks he's that young person, but when, the outside says, oh, no, you ain't. You are in your 60s, and it really sits me down a little bit, but I've done so much better than others I've known, so I'm okay. So I really fight the depression, So I wonder why my dad would sing to himself when things were rotten. And we'd go to the grocery store and he'd be humming a tune. And I think I got that from him, where he was able to move aside crap. But he was approaching 80, so, after a while, when is something going to be exciting to where you're devastated and afraid when you know how to get out of it, or you can find a way to get out of whatever it is that you're going through. So I don't think I have the deep depression anymore. Only if a friend dies, I had to be very careful. Someone I've known for a number of years, and we were, like family, that I got to get over. It's hard to do that. But other than that, life is, you get into a realm where you're just comfortable with where you're at and accept the blessings that you receive and the blessings that you give, to others. So I really fight depression. I really do. I had some Facebook friends who said, sure, I'll do it. Yeah, no problem, and then you're thinking, hope. So every angle, and I had 3 people, remember 3 people that gave me hope. The last one gave me hope when we were at this big breakfast thing, and this young lady comes to me and says, I'm A positive and I'll give you a kidney. And I looked at her and I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. And just the way she communicated to me, kind of like the last minute kind of thing. It wasn't really the last minute. It was just, she got herself tested out. She's pre-diabetic and she's not a good candidate, and then she disappeared. I gave up. I just said, let me just not worry about it. Let me just wait and do the process and continue on. Because false, when they give you this hope, the 3 people, and you find out that they're not a candidate, you get up on this plateau, and then you get clobbered, and you get up there again, and then you get clobbered. Then at the, strike 3, it's like, no, I give up. I'm going to just do it the way, just go through the process. And again, we see where it's taken me. You know, to no kidney, dialysis for the rest of your life, but still, there's options that are very important in life, whatever it is. As long as you have options, that's your freedom within that confine. Yeah. I figured I had to tell a story. Maybe there's going to be a kidney behind it. Maybe someone can see what's going on. I need a reason to sit in this chair. I need to express this to someone to understand if you're caught in this flow, then this is what's going to happen, and there's where you're going to be. And I guess I'm not where I wanted to be, but I'm in a place where I can make some choices with what's given to me. The freedom of choice is one of the biggest things that keeps you from being depressed. If you find that you have no other premise, no other way to move on, then what happens is you just kind of give up because you don't have that freedom that you're used to having. I think humans and innate creatures, we need freedom. Finding the freedom in areas that are limiting. Finding, well, if I'm put in this particular situation, where are my freedoms within that confine? And then you get excited about that because you're able to approach it and say, well, since I have to do this, I'll do it this way and have a little bit more freedom in that area. So always looking for that whole out, that positive way of looking at things. You have no choice. Either you fall into a big old hole and just stop doing it, and where's that taking you? To the other side. Or do you, since you've been dealing with this from the start, you after 11 years, you've kind of learned how to roll with the punches. And then when you roll with the punches, you try to find a good light from that, and look at the alternative and say, well, I could do this and I can still have, as long as I have options, then I think what that'll do is give me the energy to fuel the better option. And then I look at it in a positive light that I've got to do this, because I realize that I'm on this planet not just for me. When I stop and realize how many people that I learn from and teach in life, kind of like that, It's a Wonderful Life. What if you weren't here? And you didn't say those kind words that kept the person from going over. So you're not here just for yourself. So it would be selfish for me to give up. There's so much more I have to be doing, in this existence. So more positive that I have to do. And that's so important to have a choice. If you don't feel that you have a choice, then you just see the abyss. You're caught into a black hole. And that's where I don't want to go. I never want to go there. Because there's always, always, always something to be grateful for. Always.